Moving on to the form of the poem, Sad Strains of a Gay Waltz. The poem is in the form of a fugue. Now, what is a fugue? A fugue is the name given to a musical composition where a subject or a theme is introduced first in one voice and the same theme is reiterated by other voices, by a second voice and a third voice. The same theme is repeated by a second voice and a third voice, but with a change. Suppose if the first voice introduced a theme music in low pitch, then the second voice will repeat the same music in a medium pitch, and the third voice will introduce the same music in a high pitch. That is how a fugue goes. So a fugue is a musical composition where a musical idea or subject, another name for subject is a musical idea. A fugue is a type of a musical composition in which a subject is introduced in one voice, then the subject is reiterated using a second and third voice. It follows a pattern. There will be a slight variation in the second voice as well as the third voice. Suppose if the first voice was in a low pitch, the second voice will be in a medium pitch and the third voice will be in a high pitch. That is how a fugue moves. So let me make you hear a fugue. So this is a fugue by Bach, and here the subject is first introduced in a high pitch range.
Then in a medium pitch range. Then in a low pitch range.
And the title also has got a significance. It talks about waltz, right? It talks about waltz, and waltz is a kind of a dance form which follows a set pattern. In waltz, you have 3 beats per measure. So if you remember the scene from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Professor Minerva McGonagall asks Ronald Weasley to dance with her, and then she invites him for a waltz, and she sings 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's how a waltz is presented, right? So there is 3 beats per measure in a waltz. In a waltz, there is 3 beats per measure. That's how they dance. There are 3 beats and they dance to this 3 beats. That is how a waltz is presented. This is the traditional order of a waltz. If you look at the poem too, the poem has 3 lines in one stanza. So the poem also has an order. Though the poem is talking about disorder and chaos that has crept in this world, the poem initially has an order. It follows a traditional form or an order. It is speaking about waltz, a traditional dance form or that has an order, that has 3 beats per measure, that has a traditional order. So in this way, the 3 lines represent the traditional order of art. Now, this order is now missing. Now, no one follows order in art. Now, order has become less relevant or it has become undesirable in art. And Wallace Stevens is precisely speaking about this loss of order in art. So, previously in many of his poems, he did mention that art is one of the factors that give order to this universe, right? He believed that art can give order to the universe. In a world without belief, art provides a necessary substitute. Art becomes belief. In a universe that is chaotic, in a universe that has no order, art provides order, or Wallace Stevens believes so. So in this particular poem, the form itself, it has an order. It has 3 lines per stanza and it stands for the traditional order of the waltz, where waltz have 3 beats per stanza. Now let's move on to the meaning of these lines. It's a bit difficult to understand the poem as such. It's very much obscure, but again, we can try to analyze these lines and interpret these lines. The truth is that there comes a time when we can mourn no more over music that is so much motionless sound. There comes a time when the waltz is no longer a mode of desire, a mode of revealing desire, and is empty of shadows. Too many waltzes have ended, and then there is that mountain-minded hoon for whom desire was never that of the waltz, who found all form and order in solitude, for whom the shapes were never the figures of men. Now for him his form have vanished, there is order in neither sea nor sun, the shapes have lost their glistening. There are these sudden mobs of men, these sudden clouds of faces and arms, an immense suppression freed, these voices crying without knowing for what, except to be happy, without knowing how, imposing forms they cannot describe, requiring order beyond their speech. Too many waltzes have ended, yet the shapes for which the voices cry, these too may be modes of desire, modes of revealing desire. Too many waltzes, the epic of disbelief, blares oftener and soon, will soon be constant. Some harmonious skeptic, soon in a skeptical music, will untie these figures of men and their shapes, will glisten again with motion. The music will be motion and full of shadows. So here, the author is mourning the death of order in art. He is mourning the death of art forms. The truth is that there comes a time when we can mourn no more over music that is so much motionless sound. So there will come a time in which we can no longer mourn over music that has become motionless sound. Music often has a rhythm, right? It has a high pitch, it has a low pitch, it has a variation of pitch. Music has a motion. What happens when music becomes a motionless sound? It becomes monotonous, right? In today's world, music have become motionless sound. Music have become monotonous. And there will come a day in which we will stop mourning over this monotonous music. We stop mourning over the death of music. There comes a time when the waltz is no longer a mode of desire, a mode of revealing desire, and is empty of shadows. So when you dance to the tune of waltz, right? A waltz is an intimate form of a dance. Now, waltz is not an ordinary dance form. It is an intimate form of dance where a couple dance together. So, waltz needs a couple. Traditionally, you need a man and a woman to perform a waltz, right? And the man will hold the waist of the woman and then dance. So, it is an intimate form of dance. In the olden days, waltz was used to express desire. It was used to express love. But here Wallace Stevens is talking about a gay waltz. So the implication here is that the waltz that the author is trying to reproduce here is a gay waltz. Which means that instead of a man and a woman performing the dance, two men are performing the dance. So here the poet says that there comes a time when waltz is no longer a mode of desire. A time will come when waltz no longer becomes a mode of desire, no longer become a mode to express desire, a mode of revealing desire and is empty of shadows. A time will come when waltz no longer has shadows. When two people dance together in a waltz, usually they leave behind shadows. So there will come a time when waltz is no longer used as a medium to express love. There will come a time in which waltz will no longer leave a shadow, which means that there will come a time in which waltz will become obsolete. Waltz will become useless. Too many waltz have ended. Too many forms like waltz have ended. Art forms and dance forms like waltz have ended. And then that mountain-minded hoon. So here the second voice has been introduced. Here there is that mountain-minded hoon and then there is that mountain-minded hoon. So here the second voice enters. Remember the fugue. So the first few lines were uttered by one voice and now the second voice enters. And the second voice reminds us about a mountain-minded hoon. Now hoon here is a word, it is an obscure word which is used by Wallace. നമ്മൾ ഡിക്ഷണറി ഒക്കെ എടുത്ത് നോക്കിയാൽ കാണാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു വേർഡ് അല്ല ഹൂൺ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഒരു ഡിക്ഷണറി മീനിങ്ങും അല്ല ഇതിന് വാളസ് സ്റ്റീവൻസ് കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് എ കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് എ സൈഫർ. സൈഫർ എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താ, ഒരു സീക്രട്ട് കോഡ് പോലത്തെ ഒരു ഭാഷയാണ് ഇവിടെ യൂസ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. Hoon here, Wallace once said that it means the loneliest air in the expanse of sky and space. Now the mountain-minded Hoon here stands for the creator. The mountain-minded Hoon here is the subject in the fourth stanza, and he is a solitary creator for whom desire was never that of walls, for whom all form and order in solitude, for whom shapes were never the figures of men, for whom his forms have vanished. So here the author is talking about the creator. Now the creator is being presented like a hermit, and this creator likes to live alone. He is removed from the world of men, and Stevens tells us that his forms have vanished away from Hoon. So it tells us that the things that he created, the forms that the creator Hoon created, it has vanished. So in a way, this is a hinting at the death of God. So the Hoon, who is a lonely creator, created many forms, and the Hoon didn't just focus on man, but he created many things. Finally, every form that he created has vanished. So here we are presented with a creator who has lost his dominion, a creator who has lost his world that he created. Now, what has happened when the creator is gone, or the creator has lost the world that he has created? It has led to a kind of an apocalypse. And that apocalypse is reflected in the following lines. There is order in neither sea nor sun. So you can't find order neither in sea or in the sun. So order in the world is lost. So we are entering into an apocalyptic world. The shapes have lost their glistening. The shapes that the God had created, the shapes, the forms, they have lost their glory. They have lost their glistening. Glistening here means shining. So the shapes that God created, maybe the shapes that God created, like man and morality, everything is gone. So the shining on these forms is no longer there. The forms are no longer glistening. There are these sudden mobs of men. Then you can see the sudden mobs of men. Again, an apocalyptic vision. This is the third voice that has been introduced. So again, if the first voice talked about waltz and the order of things and how music has lost its rhythm and how dance or waltz has become empty of its shadows, how waltz is no longer a mode of revealing desires. Then the second voice spoke about a creator, a mountain-minded Hoon, a single-minded Hoon. Now the word has many connotations. Wallace Stevens himself told that the Hoon is a cipher or a secret word that is used to denote a mysterious wind, and some interpretations suggest that the Hoon is a demiurge or a creator who created many forms, and all the forms that the creator created or Hoon created in his solitude has lost their glory or has lost its shining. Hoon ennu parayuna creator loneliness il all alone create ചെയ്ത ഫോംസിനെല്ലാം അതിന്റെ ആ ഒരു ഗ്ലിസനിങ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതിന്റെ ഷൈനിങ് നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടു എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. For him all the forms have vanished. All the forms that he created have vanished. Now the third is an apocalyptic vision. There is order in neither sea nor sun. You can't find order in sea or sun. The shapes have lost their glistening. All these shapes have lost their shine. The sea and the sun has lost its shine. The third again is a voice, and you can now see the sudden mobs of men. That is the third voice speaking. The third voice speaks of mobs of men. These sudden clouds of faces and arms an immense suppression freed, these voices crying without knowing for what, except to be happy without knowing how. Imposing forms that they cannot describe, requiring order beyond their speech. Now, the mobs of men here stands for men who live in a world without God, without faith, without a creator. Now, they have been freed from an immense suppression because religion in many ways preached morality, and religion suppressed men from thinking higher thoughts. So here, the suppression is being freed, these men are being freed, but still they cry and they don't know what they are crying for. They cry for the loss of faith, but they still don't know what they are crying for. They try to find forms in other things. They try to impose forms that they cannot describe. That is, earlier I had said that when the Enlightenment came and when man lost faith in religion, man turned to other forms of ideologies like communism or Nazism and the like. So men now mourned over the loss of something that they lost, but they still don't know what they had lost. And now they just want to be happy, but they don't know for what they are to be happy. They try to impose forms that they cannot describe. They try to find order in different things. After the death of God, after the loss of faith, they try to find order in different things. They try to impose forms that they cannot describe. They wanted to find order, requiring order beyond their speech. So to keep it simple, the third voice here enters and they are crying. And they don't know why they are crying. So mobs of men enter and they are crying. So this cry, it represents the cry of humanity who are unable to adjust with the chaos that they see around them. They are unable to adjust with the lack of order or chaos that they were exposed to. So till then they believed in religion, but now the stronghold of religion is gone. Now they are grappling with this disorder. They just want to find an order. They just wish to find an order in different things. So they are still unable to fully understand the change that have come over the world. They are still grappling with the chaos. അപ്പോൾ പെട്ടെന്ന് ഒരു ഡിസോർഡറിലോട്ട് ഹ്യൂമാനിറ്റീനെ തള്ളിവിടുകയാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അവർ ആ ഡിസോർഡറിൽ കടന്ന് കഷ്ടപ്പെടുകയാണ്. അവർക്ക് എല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങളിലും ഒരു ഓർഡർ കൊണ്ടുവരണം എന്നുണ്ട്. ബട്ട് അവർക്ക് അത് എങ്ങനെ കൊണ്ടുവരണം എന്നറിയില്ല. There is that helplessness. They are crying over it. They don't know what they are crying for, but still they are crying over the helpless situation that they are in. They are faced with chaos. They are being freed by the suppression of religion, but they don't know what to do with that freedom. They try to find order in different things. ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ religion പോയപ്പോൾ they tried to find order in communism. They tried to find an order in Nazism. They thought that if they become a worker, then they would find their salvation. Or if they become an Aryan, or if they truly believe in Aryan supremacy, then they could find their salvation. But they were not able to do that. So they were trying to find order beyond their speech. Too many waltzes have ended. Here waltz stands for all the philosophies, all the thoughts and ideas, like the end of religions. So too many waltzes have ended. The order has ended. Waltz represents a traditional order of things. Too many waltzes have entered means the traditional order has ended. People stopped believing in religion. Too many ideologies have come to an end. Yet the shapes for which the voices cry, these too may be modes of desire, modes of revealing desire. So still the voices cry out to form an order. They cry out for shapes. Maybe this is also a form of desire where they are trying to cry out for the lost shapes. It is a desire within them to find order in things, so they are crying out to the lost shapes. Too many waltzes, the epic of disbelief, blares oftener and soon. So now everywhere they look at everything with disbelief. They can't trust anything because all that they trusted in has ended. Their trust in religion had ended. All that they trusted in, the trust in morality, it has come to an end. The trust in Christian morality, it has come to an end. So now they are being exposed to an epic of disbelief. Now they no longer believe in anything. And it blares oftener and soon, and they can hear the epic of disbelief often and soon. The epic of disbelief blares oftener and soon will be constant. Now, their disbelief will be a constant, which means that they will no longer believe in anything. And the air of disbelief will be there in the air. And there will be a general air of disbelief all over the world. Some harmonious skeptic soon in a skeptical music will unite these figures of men and their shapes, will glisten again with motion. The music will be motion and full of shadows. So in the end, when we come to the end of the poem, it is a final voice. And the final voice speaks about a harmonious skeptic. Maybe a person who does not believe in anything. A skeptic is a person who does not believe in anything. A person who is skeptical. Maybe a skeptic will come up from amongst the men. Maybe a skeptic will come up. And the skeptic will unite these figures of men, will bring together these figures of men and their shapes and the shapes that the men want. And everything will glisten in motion, everything will shine, the sun, the ocean will shine, and the music will be set to motion. Remember, in the beginning, there was a motionless music, there was a reference to a motionless music, but in the end, the poet speaks about a harmonious skeptic who might rise from these crowd of skeptical men. The harmonious skeptic will try to give an order to things. He will try to unite the figures of men and their shapes, like the Übermensch. The harmonious skeptic, the skeptic with a tune, with harmony, he will come together. He will unite these men with their shapes, with their ideals, and everything will set to motion again. The sun will shine, the sea will glisten again, will glimmer again, and the music will be set to motion, and in waltzes, the waltzes will be filled with shadows. So here, the final voice is speaking about order. All other voices spoke about disorder, but the final voice is contemplating on order, on how a harmonious skeptic would bring about order in this universe. Maybe this harmonious skeptic is a reference to the Übermensch or the Overman or the Superman. So a harmonious skeptic, the poet says, would come and bring order to the world. He will bring motion to music, and he will bring shadow to the walls. And the walls will be filled with shadow. So, the harmonious skeptic will contemplate order in this universe. So, here the ending is complete. Here, the entire poem spoke about some kind of a disorder, and towards the end, the final voice talks about an order. It talks about a harmonious skeptic who will bring about order in this universe. So once again, if you go through the poem, the first few stanzas talks about how the music has become motionless sound, and the second stanza speaks about how waltz has lost desire, how waltz have become now a mode that no longer stands for desire. The third stanza speaks about the mountain-minded hoon, or a creator who was never interested in men, who was happy in his solitude creating things, who was happy creating the world. But then the shapes that he created, the figures, they have all vanished. So the faith have vanished, morality have vanished. So the creator is no longer there. There is no order in things. Then there is this apocalyptic vision of a world in which neither the sea nor the sun glimmer or glisten or shine. The next voice talks about a mob of men and the cries uttered by the mob of men. The men are terrified by the chaos that is created in this world, the chaos that has fallen over the world. So they cry. They don't know what they are crying for, but still they cry. And they try to find order in things, in different things. They know that they are being freed because the suppression that was there, that was put forth by religion, is no longer there. They are freed from the immense suppression. But still, they are crying because they have lost order. So they try to impose order in all the forms that they see. But then the author says that all the waltz have ended. Too many waltzes have ended. Meaning that people have lost their faith in many a thing. So too many waltzes have ended. Which means that order has ended in this universe. Yet the voices of men, they cry out for some kind of a shape. Because they still have desire within them and they cry out for some kind of an order. And that is now the desire that is there within the men. They cry for some kind of an order. But all the waltzes have ended and people have now entered into a zone of disbelief where they no longer believe in anything. And now the only constant thing that is there in the world is this disbelief. The only thing that is constant in this world is disbelief. Because people can no longer believe in anything. They have lost their faiths. And now the final voice speaks about a harmonious skeptic who enters into the scene. And it is believed that this skeptic will unite the men and their shapes and their ideals. And the world will once again shine. The music will be set to motion. And in the waltz floor, you can find shadows. Now there is another cross reference here to shadows. Because in Thus Spake Zarathustra and in most of Nietzsche's works, he did say that God is not entirely dead. You cannot entirely kill God or you cannot entirely kill the belief in God. God may live in some cave as a shadow and he may come out sometime later. So he still lives as a shadow somewhere, he said. So this might be a reference to that shadow of God. So again, the shadows have returned, which means that in one way or the other, order has returned into this world. So the shadow may be a reference to or can be an allusion to the shadow of God who has hidden in the caves. It's just a passing illusion that you can make. So that's all about this poem. This poem is highly obscure and there are only a few details that are available that talks about this poem. But this is the general idea of the poem. Please go through the notes that I give you and try to make sense of the poem. I hope that it is clear to you. If you have any doubts, do ask me. Thank you for listening to today's lecture. Take care.